This is a cardone cactus, and you can notice the holes that were made by one of the desert woodpeckers in it.
What a magical vista we have from the side of one hill, overlooking the arroyo and reaching out to embrace the beach, the bay, and the boat. There is something fantastically romantic and exotic about going ashore on a large, uninhabited island in the middle of the Sea of Cortez, and then at night having a big bonfire and barbecue on the beach. We are reluctant, when morning comes, to depart this sheltered bay of paradise. But our next adventure is to provide an unforgettable natural history experience. Further north, our ship approaches a small fortress-like island of giant rocks known as Los Islotes, which turns out to be the gathering place for a huge colony of California sea lions. They are a deafeningly raucous bunch, barking and roaring as they jostle around on the ledges and dive into the water to mill around next to our boat.
Are we scaring them, or are they just...
The sides of the island are so steep that the captain can nose our ship right up to within a few feet of the rocks. There is one level stretch of rocks over to the right, just above the water's surface, where a gang of sea lions are sitting crowded together, stretching their necks and pointing their noses to the sky against a fantastic backdrop of ocean spray from heavy waves crashing against the far side of the rocks. On this sunny ledge, there are a number of bored mother sea lions with small calves nursing or just lying stretched out on their mothers' backs. In the early morning sunlight, the white spray catapulting high in the air behind the sea lion troop makes a breathtaking sight. We have now progressed some distance up into the broad Gulf of California, the Sea of Cortez, separating the Baja Peninsula from the Mexican mainland. It's now time to make a visit to the well-situated city of La Paz, the largest and most important municipality in the southern part of Baja. The city has a population of about 150,000, and true to its name, it is a peaceful center of commerce, tourism, and education. We enjoy an afternoon and evening of shore leave here. On day 10, we continue our journey northward in the Sea of Cortez, looking for additional species of whales, and especially the largest of all, the great blue whale. We do sight a medium-sized pair of smooth-backed rorqual whales with very small dorsal fins, and the naturalists believe they may be the kind known as Brutus whales. This means we have now sighted 6 different species of cetaceans, 3 kinds of dolphins, the gray, humpback, and now Brutus whales, but no blues. While some of us eat lunch out on the deck to make sure we don't miss anything, we next find ourselves in the midst of a large, widely dispersed pod of bottlenose dolphins. Occasionally, 1 or 2 of these dolphins will suddenly leap out of the water as if in sheer exhilaration. Watch closely now to see this. From time to time, some of these bottlenose dolphins venture over to the side of our ship, as if offering us a gift of pure joy at watching their symmetrical bodies propelled by their slowly undulating tails flow through the clear blue water alongside us. This day is Sunday, and it is hard to imagine a more beautiful cathedral or a more inspiring sermon than these dolphins in the Sea of Cortez. In the afternoon, the group decides to make another excursion to a foreign shore, riding the Humbers to the rocky beach of one more of the Gulf's large, cactus-covered, uninhabited islands, Isla Santa Catalina. Here we find, alongside a formation known as Elephant Rock, an ideal place for snorkeling, where we can observe underwater a wide variety of colorful fish, before heading back out to the ship for a delicious dinner and an evening lecture by one of the naturalists. The weather the next day is perfect, with the morning sun spreading its warmth over land and sea. Continuing our quest, leaving a wake of white foam behind us, we search the vast surface all morning in vain for any sign of whales, though we know that many, including blues, do frequent these waters. Well, so far, this beautiful 11th day, Keith, has been one of water, water everywhere and not a whale in sight.
All right. They got to be somewhere, though, haven't they?
They've got to be somewhere, so we'll keep looking for that
this afternoon. Tomorrow.
Finally, taking advantage of the low tide, we decide to go ashore and search for smaller forms of life on the island of San Marcos. Here we engage in tide pooling under the guidance of Dr. James Kelly, a tour member who is Dean of Science at San Francisco State University and whose scientific vocabulary is astounding.
This is an example of one of the commonest tide pool urchins in the West Coast, and in the Gulf it's called Strongylocentritus purpuratus. The live animal, purple with the spines on it, and the test.
Okay, this little cone is a wolf spider, and you can see the webbing around the edges of it, and it goes on inside there to his little house. And
never having heard of a wolf spider before, we are intrigued at how this small insect hides inside the little mound it has erected and then pounces out to catch any unwary passerby. We feel well rewarded by this afternoon's extraordinary hands-on course in shore and desert small life. Our trip has now taken us more than halfway up the eastern coast of the Baja Peninsula, and our destination on the morning of the 12th day is to be the incredible bird island of San Pedro Martir. In the dawn's early light, we see ahead of us the great bulk of rock which is home to literally thousands of birds. A single gull flies overhead as we follow a surface-skimming flock of pelicans heading toward the whitewashed mountain peak, resting like a giant iceberg in the middle of the sea. The rays from the rising sun on the eastern horizon color the sky like an artist's palette. Light up the high-flying birds and cast a rosy hue over the island's lustrous sides as we prepare to send a landing party out in the Humbers. For thousands of years, this island has been the continuing nesting place for countless generations of vast numbers of birds whose white-gray excrement, guano, has covered the rocks with accumulated layers, making the slopes as slippery as a greased slide. Our arrival is greeted by large flocks of pelicans, gulls, and booby birds competing for space on the surfside ledges, and by dozens of sea lions cavorting in the water around us. Just getting ashore on Isla San Pedro Martir is a daunting and perilous task, and those of us who risk it know that however carefully we climb, we cannot avoid getting tarred and feathered with the whitish guano before we depart. Back down at Pelican Point, the sea lions seem to be putting on another aquatic performance for us, chasing each other around with acrobatic contortions. Midway up the side of the island, we find a semi-plateau where a number of boobies have established nests and are circling around in the air to protect them. These large, graceful seabirds are blue-footed boobies. I don't know where they got the name booby, but they are called blue-footed because their webbed feet are indeed bright blue. It's difficult to see their feet because they only become visible when the booby comes in for a landing on the ground or on a rock and extends his feet to act as an air brake. Guano, at one time, was harvested on this island for fertilizer, so that at day's end we feel a little bit like pirates guarding a secret treasure. Our whale-watching adventure in Baja California is to come to an end 2/3 of the way up the east coast to a small community located at Baja de Los Angeles, where we will leave the boat and fly back to San Diego. A new tour group will join the boat here and follow a reverse course in circumnavigating the peninsula. But we still have one more day to look for whales and try to find Big Blue. For one last time, our eyes keep scanning the horizon. Then suddenly, we see a spout shooting high into the air. It is different from any we have seen before. Yes, it's the spout of a blue whale, the largest animal ever to have lived on Earth. Blue whales grow up to 100 feet in length, and the spout from their giant blowholes sends a narrow column of mist higher up in the air than that of any other whale. At long last, our quest has been rewarded dramatically on the last possible day. What excitement runs through the ship as everyone scurries for their cameras. All my life I have dreamed of someday seeing a great blue whale alive in the sea. I have waited over 60 years for this ultimate moment, and now it has arrived. After the whale has replenished its breath for half a dozen times, it points its immense body downward and raises its incredibly long, narrow tail out of the water for a deep dive. After staying down for 10 or 12 minutes, our blue beauty surfaces again. Observing the long, smooth, blue-gray back of this gentle leviathan and the tiny tip of a dorsal fin far back on its body, the naturalists aboard our ship estimate that this lone specimen cruising leisurely along in this Baja waterway is about 70 or 80 feet long. British wildlife artist Keith Shackleton has observed that any superlative is provocative, and almost everything about a blue whale is a superlative. Its tail measures 15 feet from tip to tip, the widest of any living creature. Our captain skillfully maneuvers our boat closer and closer to the whale on each surface without disturbing it. Finally, the whale comes up right alongside the ship and gives us an unsurpassable view. I want to freeze frame this last climactic shot so we can take in the full length of this tremendous underwater form, from the spouting head way up front to the widespread tail flukes back at the rear. What a living monument to the incomparable glory of God's miraculous creation.